engage fathers and may unwittingly support negative maternal views of fathers by not encouraging the mothers to involve fathers. Professionals also reinforce fathers' negative view of themselves by not proactively engaging fathers to show them that they can be good parents. I mean, most of the time when a teacher thinks of parenting and who they're going to contact first, they generally I would say, from my experience, they mention mothers, not knowing that even myself was raised by my single father. So, I mean, I've had that experience as well. But I mean, I really do notice that when it comes to movies and everything else, it's always that intelligence, the wit, even in some ways the masculinity in the family is all just given to the mother, as if the father is just a sperm donor and a financial provider. And I think that's so unfair, especially when most households in America have at least one, maybe 2 or 3 televisions in their house. So they're being bombarded with this mass media campaign of the image of fatherhood and what it must be and what kind of experience it must be like. So if you're a teenager raised in that kind of environment with those impressions, then it's no wonder that just from jump, they don't expect much from a man when it comes to helping shape and raise their child. It's as if they've already become an expert at the expectations of what fatherhood is before they even become a father. I mean, a mother of a child when dealing with their father. Hell, I think this is even worse for the men too, because now they really don't know where to go. If their father is not even involved themselves, it's not like they could turn on a TV and be educated. And if the women already come in with particular stereotypes about their expectations of the male's role in parenting a child, then they can't go to a partner. Or at least they think it's harder to, because they may feel like they'll be misunderstood or not get any emotional support. Then it's that much harder. I know for me, at least I had certain role models. Not everybody has that privilege. So, I mean, man, that's deep. So this is what the beginning of my Father's Day was like today. It's kind of crazy. I didn't expect to make this podcast today, but definitely I just been thinking a lot. I think my daughter getting older, I just think even deeper, because you see so much growth in your children. I don't know, I just started thinking about like what was my role in all this awesomeness that I'm seeing happen before me. And then what were the things? I think me having role models and being around other men has helped me to dodge so many bullets, where in which a single mixed African-American male having a child at such a young age, at 21, you don't need to be a rocket scientist as to what stereotypically or statistically or, what the media would say on the possible outcomes of my performance as a father would be. I'd like to say I dodged all those stereotypes. I definitely wasn't perfect along the way, but I definitely feel like when I read this study on fatherhood.com, it is so true. And that goes back to my first theory about being present. Just being involved means so much in a child, whether they liked it or not. A lot of times you won't see, I'll just speak on my experience. A lot of times, like, I didn't understand the fruits of my labor in terms of the development of my child until years and years after, where I'm like, right on, you start seeing it. And I guess that's the way it always will be when it comes to being a parent. But I know consistently the one common denominator was my involvement, showing up for the field trips, taking a day off. It's okay, because this is an investment in your child's well-being. And taking a day off of work to go to class trips, showing up. reading a book, being goofy, watch something they actually want to watch, whether you like to or not. Ask about the music they like, just being present. That goes back to my thing, just be present. Sexual stereotyping begins early in a man's life. Boys learn what it means to be a man from a family and peers. These ideas about approved behaviors and modes of thought are focused and supported by media images. A few adjectives that, I can definitely see that are stereotypes, or at least belief perceptions of what it is to be a man, are like bravery, adventurous, being able to think logically and rationally, being strong and effective, are just a few examples of manly traits that are usually encouraged. So also are the ability to think independently and to take initiative. Media definitely supports that all the way. While young women, on the other hand, are urged to pursue beauty and sex appeal and nurturers and so forth and so on. So this starts at the beginning. The stereotypes of what we think of when it comes to being a man and thus a father. I could almost see why, many people are lost at first at what it is. I mean, if you're always told to be a nurturer, to take care of people and everything else, I think when it comes to the raising of a child, how natural it may seem to appear for women and how disconnected it can be for a guy, right? I mean, let's just be honest. Guys don't tend to hug each other. I think that they should, quite honestly. Bro time is super important, I think. That just includes guys doing what guys do, whatever stupid shit that happens to be, as long as it's legal. But it is important, I think, just psychologically and spiritually, guys, to connect with guys. Just as much, I think, as it is important for girls to have a girls' night out, to do whatever girls do and talk about what girls do. I don't know. Okay, so we have bad images. We have negative stereotypes. We have biases, or like implicit biases on fathers, or just the male role in fatherhood or in parenting children. So what can be done? What can we do to help support men who actually are trying to find ways in which to engage in parenting of their children in this thing we call fatherhood? I think women could be definitely supportive, in which not allowing, or at least women to give men room to be more nurturing, or at least trying to figure out what that is. I mean, when a man becomes a father, by that time we're talking 20, 30 years being ingrained into what our role as a man is and our role in society is, and a lot of it is misconceived. Many times men are still trying to figure out what their personal role is in life, let alone as a man. So I think women in general, understanding and trying to be sympathetic, that as much as it is hard for women to live in our society, especially, in the Western culture, how difficult it is for men to try to be a man per se. It's a very, I think there's all sorts of pressures in which men face that women will never face, and that's okay. I mean, men are statistically, suffer cancer more. They have a higher suicide rate. They have all sorts of pressures. As I said earlier, what it is to be a man, like if you don't earn enough, like that kind of a thing, like you're not being able to provide, that takes a major toll. I bet most folks don't know that men are twice as likely to be a victim of violent crimes. While women are significantly more likely to suffer domestic abuse than men, that's not to say that men aren't always victimized in their own homes. Just over 13% of men say they've been a victim of domestic abuse at some point in their lives. In fact, in every 3 reports of domestic abuse, 1 victim is male. Now, I bet most people don't talk about even the possibility of men being victims of domestic violence from their partner. I could think of many reasons why we don't hear about it. First, I think many men don't want to admit it, that they have from their female partners, perhaps, that it demasculinates them to admit such a thing. But that is a huge factor. I mean, think about it. In every 3 reports, 1, that's 33%. That's a pretty large fat percentage. So with that said, it's like understanding that, I think, again, going back to what I'm saying, women to help understand, trying to at least be empathetic that men go through a particular unique struggle in their own development as a human being as to compared to them. Men don't have it easy, I guess, or at least trying to help understand that men don't have it easy, and just being empathetic. I'd love to hear your suggestions. What do you think women can do to help men discover, what is their honest role, and not only in life, but just as a father too? Like maybe they have something to contribute, or at least maybe they see something I don't. Shit. What can men do? Well, I can go on about that. I think men can do many things to help support other men better. I mentioned earlier the importance of bro time, hanging out with the fellas, not to do stupid stuff, but I mean, generally getting together and being together is really therapeutic. I know it works for me. I think one thing is to be there for others, like a role model. I think that is such a great way in which not only can someone else with the experience of being a man can give back, but also for young men to have someone to look up to. Not everybody has a positive father. Not everybody has an awesome uncle to run to. But finding that positive role model, I think the role model is so important because they've been there and done that. They can share that experience and pass it down. And I noticed by default, men love to share their knowledge to the next one or next person. It's just in general, just like when I hang out with my guys or like my boys and everything, and we're talking about whatever we're talking about, and whoever has more experience about it, they're like, yeah, so I've done this and I've done that, and just comes out naturally, and it just like each one teach one, and we all benefit from that person's knowledge. I think that could really be helpful for a younger man who might be going through similar struggles and strifes to help dodge some much needed bad missteps that they may go through. What's another way that men could help support men? Not tearing each other down, and really just being more positive. My biggest thing, again, when it comes to men and men, is just being present. I hate to keep going back to that, but I think being present is so super important. Just being involved and realizing you are not perfect. That was like one of the best things I've been able to allow myself to be, is not perfect. You don't have to be a millionaire father to be a good father. And being okay with that, and being around other men who are okay with that too, meaning that they don't define their fatherhood or their manliness through income, but rather through action. So I think those are some great ways. Yeah, I think those are a couple. I'm sure I don't know it all, obviously. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But again, I'd like to hear from you. What do you think that men can do for men to help better support each other? I didn't mean to get too deep, and I hope I didn't get too lost in my thoughts. Regardless, I hope you all had an amazing Father's Day. Remember, us dads out there, we're not perfect, but we are trying our best. And for those who are trying their best, make sure you give them a big hug today, tomorrow, and every other day. Okay, dads need love too. So